going live right now with another amazing author and superstar. And we have lots to talk about this morning as I highlight her beautiful book, Leading for Justice. And she's another one of my She Writes sisters. And we are ready to begin. And here is the beautiful Rita. And let me give you a little bit about her, because I think that to know her book is to know her. And that's the whole point about Amazing Authors today, because I really want to highlight the person, the writer behind the magic. So we have Rita Severs, and her Storyteller is the storyteller that is going to become the story this morning. She serves as a coach, consultant, and trainer with mission-driven organizations. Rita works with individuals, teams, leaders to improve the culture and practice of supervision and HR, thereby helping the organization to be more effective. Rita has an MA in organizational psych and has taught part-time at the University of San Francisco and Sonoma State University in California. So I want to thank her once and foremost for waking up super early to be with us all this morning on the East Coast. I know the West Coast is just waking up to the world. You're a little delayed. But welcome, Rita.
Thank you, Meg. I'm excited to be with you and your listeners, watchers, and I'm wide awake.
Awesome, and you look fantastic as well. So, I want to give them all a summary of your book, just so they have an idea. This is a different kind of book in that it is more of how to lead better, how to show up in the world better. And, I've had novels, I've had nonfiction in the memoir genre. This is probably the first one I'm having as far as this type of, supervision, HR, and culture experience. To elevate that is, I think, what you're going for. So Leslie's here. She's saying she's up too. Thank you all for showing up. This is wonderful that you're all supporting us this morning. Thank you always for showing up for the Amazing Authors Show. So this book was created specifically for leaders who care about social justice. Leading for Justice addresses specific concerns and issues that beset organizations working for social justice and offers practices and models that center justice and equity, which I really love, that you really are looking to make a difference in this particular realm, to do better, not to berate, but to do better. Topics include the role of a supervisor in a social justice organization, the importance of self-awareness, which is huge in my book, issues of power and privilege, human resources as a justice partner, misses and messes, I love that, and clear guidelines for holding people accountable in a manner that is respectful and effective. And I love those words. Respectful is certainly really a component that I think a lot of management loses sight of many times. Written in a friendly, accessible, and supportive tone, and offering discussion questions at the end of each short section to make the book user-friendly for both individuals and teams. This is a book for leaders who want to walk the talk of supporting social justice in their organization and in the world. Bravo. And here is that beautiful book. So in case everybody hasn't seen the cover, it is, yes, all these wonderful different hands flying up there. I don't know if it's like singing hallelujah or doing it better or, pick me. But it is a wonderful book, and I definitely encourage each of you to go check it out. So now we turn from the book to beautiful you, Rita. I love to know the journey, the actual story behind the hero's journey, your own journey, to bring this to the fore and show up today with a published book. What a wonderful credentialed past you have, and a story that's yet to be written, because you have lots of things to say and a lot of places you're going to go. So tell me a little bit about your journey.
So I think my journey really goes back to growing up the youngest of 6 children. And in that role, I did not feel seen and heard all the time. I felt unseen. Probably we all did. And so growing up, that was an important value to me. And when I grew up, as I grew older, I realized that there were not only individuals who weren't seen and heard, but there were whole categories of people in our society who routinely feel left out and unseen and unheard. And so I decided I wanted to try to help level the playing field a little bit. So I started working in nonprofits. I got involved in human resources, and I found it a way that I could help not only individuals feel seen and heard, but create policies and practices to help people feel included. As you said, I ended up working with mostly social justice organizations. And those organizations I found were focusing so much on righting the wrongs in the world, fighting injustice in the world, that their staff often felt left behind and unseen, unheard, not included. And so that is the focus of my work. And then I decided during the pandemic, I probably had written about half of the book, and I used that time when work slowed down a little bit to really focus my mission of this work and to finish the book. And it seemed like an important time to bring this message of don't just put a statement on your website, but do something about it and do something for your staff.
You know, I do say that words, you know, are powerful, but when words meet action, then it turns into a whole like evolution. I think I won't say revolution because, you know, it's kind of evolving, but we want an evolution. We want to level up and do better. We don't want to go back to what we want to do better. And I think that comes with what you're saying in the bio and your production, the awareness. So where did you, I mean, okay, one of 6 kids, that's, yeah. I can only imagine. I am one of 3, and that was like I was middle, so clearly, you know, screaming was about the only way I was going to get hurt a lot of times. But you know, but one of 6 is another challenge in and of itself, for sure.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about that, and what kind of, you know, legacy are you continuing by virtue of your family story, your family history?
Right. Yeah, I think the experience was very similar to being in a nonprofit, a sense of scarcity, a sense of being one of many, a sense of needing to pull your own weight. And so when I stepped into the nonprofit sector, it felt very familiar to me. And yet when I found my voice and found my role in work, I just blossomed and really wanted to extend, as you said, the importance of respect. And, you know, I worked in an organization that had over 200 employees, and I knew every person's name because that was so important to me that I see and honor the work they were doing, which was so powerful. So that really is the thread through my work and my writing. Excuse me.
No, I was just going to say to that point where you were saying respect and also knowing someone's name. My God, what more profound recognition of another person than by calling them by their name? And because I always am very impressed by those people who are in a leadership role and they know me. And it feels like they know me because they use my name, hopefully in a good sense, not necessarily bad. But you know, it is very important. Those little things really make a huge impact in the morale, I would say, of the group. And Valerie's saying, what an admirable calling. She first said admiral. So maybe being one of the 6, you have that kind of, you know how to organize, which definitely this book goes to that as far as the format. But yeah, tell me a little bit more about, you know, with regard to, you know, your calling, what was like the greatest lesson you learned from the nonprofit world then that you took into teaching, perhaps, you know?
I think that was one of them, that every person can make a difference, no matter what their role in the organization is. And that scarcity can motivate us, but it can also hinder us. And so figuring out the way to work with the resources we have, but not live with a scarcity mentality. That's really important, both in life and in work and in teaching.
Yeah, no, I love that. I usually, you know, I always say you can feel the energy of lack when you're with people who have been maybe passed over or maybe not seen or maybe, you know, just, you know, feeling like they have nothing to offer. But when you can walk into a room, and then I really do, you know, this is a great resource for so many people because it will give you these tools that'll help shift the energy component in any kind of organization, not just because, you know, you're looking for social justice, but because you're looking to see people. And I think that when you do that, the whole narrative changes. Like we said before, that, you know, what did Shakespeare say about a name? No sweeter thing than the sound of someone's name. I wanna ask you about your experience so far, you know, with this whole publishing journey. You know, it's been how long now? You have now, I'm looking at the back of wow. So this is out in, well, obviously 2021, but how long have you been out now?
So this book has been out almost a year, August 3rd. And this is my second book. So I published my first book with the same publisher, She Writes Press, in 2016.
Okay.
And so it was very interesting doing the journey again. And a year out, I'm thrilled, excited by the conversations I've had and hearing from people that has impacted their work. And I continue to be amazed and frustrated with how hard it is to get word out there. And at the same time, because I have a book from 2016, I'm still selling those books. So there's a length to the journey that I think we don't always remember and account for. So I think that's really important too. I think the books can have legs, if you will.
So tell me the name of the first book again.
It's called Supervision Matters.
Okay.
And the subtitle is 100 Bite-Sized Ideas to Transform You and Your Team.
That's great. You know, I think 2016 was a very different time for a lot of businesses than it is now. I mean, how different the world looks now, and how, you know, change happens whether you like it or not, and you know, being well attuned to those tools that you can use to bring people in to another level of thinking, perhaps maybe even like I said before, a better way of doing things. How has your experience been different with the publishing in 2016, and then coming out your second one during COVID? I mean, that was a whole different experience, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yes. With the first one, I did many in-person events. I was invited to give keynote addresses. I flew across the country. With this book, I haven't done any in-person events. It's just not been feasible. And so that changes both the sales, but also just the feeling of it. Because the feeling of being with a group of people like this is as close as I've come to it. And talking about your book and getting feedback and responses in real time is such a high. It's such a precious thing. So has been a very different journey for sure.
Well, I will say the caveat yet. You are planning certain events in the future. You have some things, you know, stirring, as you've shared with me. I don't know if you're willing to share with that at this time. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm doing a few things, some just on my book, but the most exciting thing I'm doing right now is working with a fellow author, Wendy Sanford, and she wrote a book about her personal journey along the same theme. She wrote about growing up with class and privilege and befriending their family maid. And we realized at some point that we share themes of social justice, and we're having such a good time talking about our books that we decided we're going to keep talking and take it on the road, because the lessons learned, but the personal impact of our writing and our journeys has been very powerful, and they cross-fertilize. So that's what we'll be rolling that out sometime in the fall.
So Leslie's saying yay to She Writes Press Sisters. And I will say this, one of my favorite things in life, and I will say in life because that is a, you know, overarching, is collaboration. I am not the kind of person who wants to be, you know, in this beautiful world walking alone. And I think that has certainly been a blessing of She Writes Press, because of the different avenues that you can in fact collaborate with other authors, and certainly having you on here, also having Wendy. I had Wendy on the show as well. You know, it was an opportunity for me to showcase you both and many more, and get eyes on these books when, you know, still, you know, the book tour and this, that, and the other are still limited. But these are different technological advances that we did not have pre-COVID. So I'm very grateful to that. one of the things I would love to have you talk about right now is like, so what are your hopes and dreams for your book and as you continue this journey? Because it's not over. Look, you're still selling 2016. So, onward, sister, onward. Yes.
Right. Thank you. Yes. My hopes for the book is that it will get into the hands of people who want to show their staff respect and want to bring that thread of compassion and support as leaders in an organization. So as you read in my introduction, to walk the talk, if they have the values of wanting to support justice in a broad sense, but also justice right in front of them, then this book can be a tool for that. And so that's one of my hopes. And that I think the other half of that is also important, that the people who feel disrespected in the workplace will have both some validation that that's okay and appropriate to how you're being treated, and some tools to help be seen and heard in the workplace. So I think that's really part of what I feel as my legacy is with this book.
So I definitely have to ask this. One of the things I love is what's in it for you as far as your intention. Like I do love the fact that you are a giver, and this is something that you want to share because it's all this wisdom and knowledge you've had over the years from your own experience. And I love in the part of your book that you at the end of each chapter put make it your own. Like you're like, here is my conceptualization of this, but how are you going to make it your own? And I think that that is really that authenticity piece that we all need to remember, that we don't want to grow up, trying to be someone else. We want to show up, embodying what it is that we're supposed to be here, and use all the wonderful wisdom and advice that we can get that resonates with us to bring that toward whatever magic you're already stirring up. So tell me about your own personal intention for even publishing. My God, this is not for the faint of heart. You don't sit down and just all of a sudden the next day have a book, not to mention 2 books and 300 pages later, right? On each.
Right.
Tell me about you and what you're trying, other than the altruistic, wonderful things that you're bringing, because I do acknowledge that. And it's wonderful. But for you, the person, Rita, what is it that you want out of this whole experience?
Thank you for asking that. And I just want to pause to say this is so fun. Thank you, Meg. Well, certainly I'm back to where I started. This is a big way to be seen. Getting a book out in the world helps me be seen in a way that I never was but I did want all my life. Yeah. And I've always been a writer. And so writing helps me find out what I think, and to have my words come together and create a book is just so validating and exciting. Yeah. So that's definitely something I wanted and got from it. And I think the other personal thing is just the connections that I'm making with other authors, with people who read the book. When somebody sends me an email and said, I got one just last week that said, your book reinvigorated me for the journey, that they doubled down in their work, that they had been feeling burnt out, and the book helped them reconnect. Wow. And that feeds me so much. So those are what I've gotten. In terms of the future, I just want more of that.
There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with that. You got to. I'm reading this book right now as well, The Power of Receiving, and a lot of us who are givers and out there in the world, and I want to say a shout out to my friend Berta Medina who gave me the book, would forget to step back and receive from the beautiful gifts that we give out into the world. And so wanting more of that, wanting more of the connection, wanting more of the inspiration to be shared with others is a beautiful thing, because it allows other people to return the favor to you as well. And getting out on the streets, so to speak, maybe starting in you're in San Francisco, correct? You're in Sonoma Valley.
North of San Francisco, okay. Yes.
You know, and you know, a lot of people are in the workplace then, and I think that you're going to offer a lot of sage wisdom and a different way of thinking about, you know, those common sense values that we seem to overlook at letting, you know, how to play in the playground together, you know,
Right.
without, you know, I always, my cousin said to me a long time ago when we were at my son's school, I think it was a party, he goes, look out there, there's that dynamic is you just take that and into the world, right?
Right.
Smaller, you know, but the reality is yes, what you're doing is basic, wonderful ideas that you bring to light and leading for justice. Because I think that at the end of the day, you know, what is justice? And that's the question I'm going to ask you now. What does justice mean to you?
Wow, that's a powerful question. I think for me, justice means that everyone has a sense of being safe to be themselves, being seen, being heard, being included in decisions that affect them. So it's like fairness to the 10th, you know, fairness, but with legs, fairness with goggles on to be seen. So I think it's really about inclusion and belonging.
You know, I couldn't agree more with you. Specifically, you know, I'm a lawyer by trade. I went to law school. I was out, you know, my social justice came from the federal government. Like that's where I was like, would justice be found? Justice be served? But reality is you got to start with yourself. And I really do believe that you do a beautiful job. And I'd love to making your own sections in this because if you're going to inspire others, you better be someone who you're inspired by. I think
Right.
if you don't, you have to course correct that. You know, if you're out in the world and you're being nasty and terrible, you know, better wake up, buddy, because it's not necessarily going to be the path that you want to walk. I want to ask you, you know, first of all, I want to congratulate you for writing 2 books. My God, 2 books in this particular genre that really it's demanding. It's calling for that. It's calling for you. And I really do encourage, obviously she's well spoken and wonderfully, you know, enjoyable in conversation as well. And definitely she's a command of the information. You can see it by what she writes. I encourage all of you out there who are looking for someone to speak to, your staff, to your HR, to your management, to contact Rita. I will ask you now if you wouldn't mind to give them a contact that they can get in touch with you so they can find you.
I'd be happy to do that. My webpage is supervisionmatters.com and my email is rita@supervisionmatters.com, and I'm on social media also.
Okay, so and also obviously at Rita Severs,
Right.
SEVERSRITA, Rita Severs, SEVERS. You know, okay, so this is where I'm going to get fun with you because I think that, you know, dreams are important and where we're going from here. And I know that your hopes and dreams, you shared it. But, you know, what do you think as a writer? And I love this because you're an amazing author, authorship. What was the greatest gift other than the connection and what you've already told us from, you know, this whole process so far?
The greatest gift of the publishing process. Besides what I've said, I think the greatest gift really has been I'm repeating myself, the connection with people, the validation. When Alicia Garza agreed to blurb my book, that was huge. That was such a validation that I was making sense in the world and my advice was going to stand out. So that was a huge gift. And every time I got reviewed or talked to someone who read the book, that everyone has been a precious gift.
Okay, and just to that point, we shout out to Alicia Garza for supporting Rita in this very worthy endeavor. Also, reviews are the lifeblood of an author at this point, especially indie authors. So please go and review favorably this book on all of the different sites, Amazon, Goodreads, BookBub, all of the above, Barnes & Noble. Let's get the word out there because we definitely need more communities that are working from this wonderful conceptual of respect, compassion, you know, seen, be seen, collaboration, and the like. Okay, so books change lives. Great writing stirs our emotions. I really do believe it. And as Valerie's pointing out, being an author involves inspiration and perspiration, as we all No. And, hopefully, when we share our stories and our experiences, we do, in fact, to a certain extent, truly change the world, making a difference, etc. But I'm wondering, what do you have planned for future writing? I know that it's kind of like when you have a baby and you're just like, really going to ask me another? But, I think that there's always those genius notions in our brain that, ideas keep coming and coming and coming and coming. So how are you, and it could be, like you said, going on the road with Wendy Sanford. That could be something that could evolve into something like a documentary, who knows, or something even bigger than your imagination. So for you, what is it that you maybe see in the future?
Yes, that's an exciting question. I actually am going to be transitioning somewhat in the next year or so, and I'm going to be stepping back from my consulting practice. So I imagine my writing will take more of a center stage, and I think I will probably shift gears a little bit and write about maybe the issues themselves that my organizations are fighting. And on a personal level, I will also be writing about relationships and the intersection of those two things, which is the power of what I'm doing with Wendy, the intersection of the work and the personal. And you do that so beautifully, Meg. I think that's really where I'm feeling drawn next. And I'll see where it goes.
And I definitely, I'd like to commend you once again on continuing writing, because you're definitely very good at it. You wrote an exceptional book, and I'm very happy to have read it and to support you as well, because I do think that the work you're doing is profound, and I think it's going to have bigger implications in the days ahead. And you started something really beautiful, and I get excited seeing you, Wendy, go to town, and maybe you'll come to our side of the world, into the East Coast. One more thing before we go. I asked this of Alex. I loved it. When we talk about you, what is it that you want people to remind? Oh, Rita Sever, she is.
She's the person who makes profound ideas easy to understand. Makes challenging work concrete. That's what I want.
I love it. And I want to read your excellent review, a little bit from it, if you don't mind, from Kirkus. It's a business book that offers advice on leadership and equity in the workplace from a human resources veteran, which you are. And it's a well-written and informative guide to lead an equitable workplace, which we all hope come to fruition sooner than later. I know that when you bolster a voice, regardless of the, what they look like, who they are as, by virtue of birth, where you come from, when you offer that person an opportunity to speak their truth, I guess is a theme this week. I'm looking towards speak their truth, then you have just benefited so many other people who are not just around them in their circle of influence, but are coming up behind them. So once again, bravo to you. I think you've done an exceptional job. And today it's all about being your magnificent self in the Magical Guide to Bliss. But I say that definitely this shows the clear magnificence of Rita Severs and the way she writes, the way she executes on the ideas, comes in a concrete, simplistic fashion that you're able to take in and use and make your own. Is there anything else you want to say before we go today? Thank you so much, Rita, for being here with me. I have had an incredibly enjoyable time talking to you.
Thank you, Meg. This has been great, and I so appreciate your support of me, obviously, but of all our writing sisters. You're a great, powerful presence in the world, so thank you.
I always say we are who we see, right? So clearly you are as well, and we are all here to support each other on this journey. Certainly, I have loved reading your work and getting to know you, and I can't wait to see what you do with all of this, and I know you'll make a difference in the end. Thank you, Louie. Thank you, Leslie, for being here. You all are wondrous. I'm sending out big hugs, lots of love today. Oh, upside down. And please go out and get her book, Leading for Justice, where books are sold. You are not going to regret it, especially if you are in that HR world, in the management world. You are going to really be bolstered by this. I've highlighted, I've underlined, and honestly, at the end of the day, there are many people that I had wished I worked with in the past who actually reflected this. So good job, Rita. Wonderful work. Bravo to you. Thank you all for joining us on Amazing Authors. I misspoke. This is number 16, Sweet 16, as I like to say. Rita, you are a star, superstar, amazing author. And remember, an empty room is a story waiting to happen, and you are the author. You are the superstar. You are the hero on your journey. So go do whatever your soul is begging you to do. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your afternoon. All right.
Thank you. You
Bye,
too.
everybody.
Bye-bye.